Hello everyone. I was out of town for almost 2 weeks, so I figured I would try to do a YouTube video to go over all the things that I missed and all the political things that I missed. And I thought I would do it kind of how I do TikTok lives, but just record myself talking to myself and see how that goes. I'm new to YouTube. I really haven't used it, but I find that some of the other apps do not really like the long, detailed videos that I do, but YouTube obviously is meant for the long, detailed videos that I do. So I figured, hey, this probably is a good place to do the update of the June political update of things I missed while I was traveling the world for my 40th birthday. Because I was traveling, I did not go to the Texas Democratic Convention, which happened in Corpus Christi. I am a delegate, so I got a bajillion text messages while I was traveling, and I'm like, I'm not gonna be there. I never said I was going. Why am I getting all these text messages? But I have been able to catch up on some things. I got to live stream some stuff yesterday and watch some of the interviews. And of course, I have thoughts, and I've kind of put it into categories of winners and losers. So a winner and a loser, I would say, is Kendall Scudder, who is our current Texas Democratic Party chair. I say he's a winner because he ran for re-election and he won. I received a bajillion text messages and emails from him and his opponent, Monique. Even at one point, we was getting text messages from Kendall's wife. I said, what is going on? I care, but I think about the kind of elections I care a lot about. Who is leading the party just is not one that I can give that much attention to. But they were gonna text you whether you wanted to pay attention or not. So he ultimately won by a pretty large margin, but I have seen quite a few critiques from people about the convention, just like some little things I think are things that they can work on going forward. So one thing, the program, all kind of errors, but apparently like the later versions of the program were fixed, but some of the statewide candidates, like our governor's candidate, Gina Hinojosa, was not in the program. They just had some wording I think could have been sharper and things like that, but they eventually acknowledged that and they fixed that. The other thing I would say is kind of a loser thing that I would tie to Kendall, but maybe not say loser, something to improve upon. Maybe not say loser, is creator access. That seems to be a big critique I heard from different creators. They just don't know what to do with creators. They know they're not traditional media, so they don't want to put them in the same space as traditional media, but then they're not giving them any access that makes them being there as a creator worthwhile. And so the big thing I would tell anybody organizing an event like a convention the size of Texas Democratic Party is the best thing that you can do is give creators access to down ballot candidates. If you're like, we've got these people like Bernie Sanders and Cory Booker coming who don't have time and they're scheduled to do a bunch of interviews with smaller media or creators, down ballot candidates and content creators, we go together real bad. Those are some of the best interviews that you get from down ballot candidates. And so finding a way to connect those two people, those two groups is key. Because down ballot candidates, they need to be able to get their story out as well, get some clips out there, talk about what they're running for, find people that are in their community because the state is huge. So they need to be able to do that. And content creators are a really great place to do that. And I think if you are a good content creator, you also are looking to tell a story that somebody else has not told. People have been talking about Cory Booker for 100 years. People have been talking about Bernie Sanders for 100 years. People have talked about the top of our ticket as well, like James Tallarico and also Gina Hinojosa. Maybe not Gina as much, but there's opportunities, I think, for these down ballot candidates or these people who are not as well known in Texas. And so finding a way to get those folks together, because the down ballot candidates, and if you are a down ballot candidate that's thinking that you want to get an interview with Houston Chronicle or all these big outlets, you're like, yeah, do that. But those clips a content creator can get for you and those interview clips, those are huge. Those make a big difference. And so I think they got to figure out how to get those two groups together. And that would probably really solve some of the complaints I saw online. So, but a lot of down ballot candidates had some really good speeches. So I will go through a couple that I saw. Now I'm a little biased. These are people that I like and I would consider friends. But Dexter McCoy, who's running for Fort Bend County judge, did an amazing job. He's a current commissioner here in Fort Bend County, which is a neighboring county to Harris County. Amazing speech. I thought his was great, but he's got really good energy. And so I'm so glad he got added to the lineup for speakers. Tyler Smith, who's running for State House, hoping to flip a seat here in Harris County in Northwest Houston. amazing job. And then Otis Evergaro, who's also running for state house, his seat is not a flippable seat, but he's right next door to Tyler Smith. And the thing about Otis he's a great speaker as well. The thing about Otis, I always say too, if there's high turnout and energy behind Otis, that helps the neighboring districts, because there's 2 districts I think that are right next to him that are flippable. So that was good to see. Other big winner for me for speeches was Jelanda Jones, who is my state house rep. Jelanda Jones got up there and spoke the truth, and I shared the clip over on Threads, but there's so many points that she said that I had to take some notes. One thing she's kept saying is inspiration does not transfer. So when you have these candidates like Jasmine Crockett, she used Jesse Jackson as an example. When they get excitement, when people are excited about Jesse Jackson, Black people specifically, and then he loses, that excitement does not automatically transfer to the winner of the primary. Walter Mondale cannot expect the excitement that Jesse Jackson had, that he garnered from Black voters. That does not transfer to you. You must earn that. And she talked about that. And I was like, yes, because one thing that I've been thinking about that has really bothered me, there's this paternalism thing that people do with Black leaders. You all think that we follow behind Black leaders like little ducklings, that we are not engaged in critical thinking here or being pragmatic, that we see a Black leader and we just follow whatever they do. And so when you think that, when you have this kind of, when you don't respect Black people and our intellect, you think that we're just following behind a Black leader. So your thought is, let me not work to get the vote of these Black people, these intelligent, pragmatic voters. Let me not work to get their vote. What I'm going to do is just get this Black leader to do what I want them to do. And when that Black leader does that, they will all follow behind us. But as Jelanda Jones noted, inspiration is not transferred, it must be earned. And so I've watched this happen with Jasmine Crockett. Part of why y'all are so mad, because y'all think if Crockett gets up there and is like, Tallarico, rah, 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 that we are all going to fall in line. Her doing that does not erase the critiques that we have of Tallarico. Tallarico must earn that. And her, now could it help? Sure, but it's not gonna erase that. And I think people are not getting that. But y'all do this a lot with Black leaders beyond just Crockett. MLK, if I'm making a video about something and people will get in the comments talking about MLK wouldn't like that. Like, he's not my daddy. Or y'all love to do this with Black revolutionaries, trying to quote Malcolm X and stuff like that. And I'd be looking like, did y'all see what Malcolm X said about white folks? let's just keep it real. Like, you can't. And so y'all like to use Black leaders in this way, and you think that we just follow behind them because they're Black leaders, and it just shows a lack of understanding of our community, how we think, our intellect, and all these different things. And also that these leaders are Black first. Like, before anything, they are Black first, and that I think is an interesting play here. But yeah, Jelanda Jones' speech, I would encourage you to listen to it if you have not seen it. It's about 5 minutes long. But I think she really pulls in some key historical references as well, and talking about what the frustration for Black voters are. I think a lot of people are confused about some different things, but I think she does a great job there. Now, she had made people mad, me included, because she was kind of heavy on critiques of Jasmine Crockett very quickly following the primary. But I think you can critique, but also call a thing. And I really do think she has her ear to the ground more than a lot of people. People in the community here, I live in her district, people like Jelanda Jones. They trust her, they go to her. She's a voice for the people. And so when she got there and said that, people keep thinking the discussions that we're having are just online. When someone like Jelanda Jones says that, please know that she's not just speaking from just like what she thinks. Like, she is talking to people and sharing that insight online. So I was like, I was over here clapping. Very good speech. So major winner for me from what I saw. And then too, like, if you're confused about why we were complaining about Black voices being heard at the convention, hello, they gave some of the best speeches. So that's why we knew we needed Black voices at the convention, because they were going to do things like Jelanda Jones did in that speech. Okay, loser behavior. The biggest loser to me for the convention would be Greg Abbott. Because why? Like, maybe he was upset because we were trolling him about that doggone elephant he brought us to the convention center here in Houston. Because why was this man, he was like pressed about this convention. Pressed. first off, they had this taco stand that was like branded with Talarico stuff and was giving out free tacos. Like, oh, here's a vegan taco, trying to make fun of Talarico as if he doesn't eat meat or whatever the case may be. Whack. And it was, people actually thought it was a Talarico stand for a while. I was like, no, it's the Republicans did that. And they thought it was the funniest thing. It was just so clever. That was whack to me. Also, too, there was somebody, the Texas Republicans had, you know those like cars that have like a big like TV screen on the back of them? I say TV screen, but it's like a big like screen. They were running these ads of Texas Democrats in the back of that, and like running these clips that are supposed to be bad about Texas Democrats. Anybody in Corpus Christi that's there for the convention, when they see this, baby, they agree with what's on that clip. One of the clips included on that thing was a clip of us on Jasmine Crockett's live talking about the Voting Rights Act. I said we weren't even there. So it's me, Courtney Couture, of course, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, and some other Black creators that were at the convention because they just are her biggest fans. So you have that. Then I also saw Greg Abbott was like, oh, he put like a missing poster up. We're looking for Jasmine Crockett at the convention. Bruh, get some business. That is so whack to me. Okay, and then the winner and loser here, other thing, the people tell me that Cory Booker did a good job. That he came to the Black Caucus room and had the best speech. They were like, say what y'all want, but Cory got the energy. He was saying Black folks, and he was talking to the people that were in that room. And so the clips I've seen, the people were excited, the people were energized, which is what you need. And Black Democrats are just very good at that. I don't know what that is from a cultural standpoint or what have you. It may harken back to how our churches operate, but yeah. Apparently Cory did an amazing job up in the Black Caucus room. Also, winner and loser here for, y'all know I stay on him because y'all gotta get together. Talarico. So there were some efforts to try to get Black voters, went into the room and all that, but didn't, to me, I've watched the clip of him in the Black Caucus room. You're in a room with Black people. Talk about Black people. Talk about, the speech seemed to be the kind of speech he gave in all the different caucus rooms. So I was like, okay, but there was an effort. I mean, he went. What was major cringe to me, though, the opening of his keynote speech, and he should have had a keynote. But the opening of his keynote speech, he talks about how his ancestors were his ancestor, because he's several generations Texan, that his ancestor signed the Texas independence, signed the Declaration of Independence from Mexico. And I said, oh, okay, so there's nobody Black who's a descendant of enslaved people in the room as you all are writing this. You have an issue with Black voters. Why would you start a speech talking about the Texas independence of Mexico when anybody that studies history knows part of why Texas leaves Mexico is because Mexico was outlawing slavery? This is similar to the Civil War in America. Part of why Texas fights for independence from Mexico is because they wanted to own people, Black people, the same black people, like the descendants of the people that you need to vote for you. So for me, I struggle with you going rah Juneteenth on the 19th of June, and then you sit up here a week later at the convention talking proudly about signing the Declaration of Independence for Texas. And I get it. The goal here is there's this who's a real Texan fight that's happening between him and Ken Paxton, okay? And that does matter to Texans. Like, that matters to certain, like the West Texas, your kind of Fort Worth, that matters to people. And so I don't knock that, but it's a slippery slope, and they slipping and sliding down that slope. Because first and foremost, they've talked about whether he eats barbecue, whether he's a vegan, all these different things to kind of paint him as this outsider, not a real Texan. So he's like, I've been here, I'm, several generations Texan. Ken Paxton is not from here. He grew up somewhere else. I think he grew up in California, or was born in North Dakota, grew up somewhere else, and then came to Texas as an adult. And they have clips of him talking about how he really enjoys going to California in the summertime, which is a shocking thing for a Texan to say, but especially a Texas Republican who build their whole identity on, we don't want to be California. But I tell people all the time that actually does, is that there are Texas Democrats who also feel the same way about not wanting to be California. But so I get this goal of trying to show, like, I'm a real Texan. I'm from here. You can't pull that card from me. I get that, and I agree with that, because that does play well for certain audiences. But you are trying to play to this one audience, and you're letting Black Texans catch a stray in that. And I'm like, but this is how I know y'all don't have generational black folks in those rooms. And I say generational, I mean people whose family have been here for generations. Because nobody who's a descendant of enslaved people would be like, well, no, wait a minute. 200 years ago, we were enslaved. I don't think you should say that. I think that is a direct conflict with you talking about Juneteenth last week. It's also a direct conflict with you talking about Barbara Jordan in the same speech, and then you're bragging about being a signer of the Declaration of Independence, which is about being able to own enslaved people. That's a problem to me. So you have that. You have that. I just think a lot of people feel like the focus right now is on trying to get these independents and Republicans, and that black people will be the last minute kind of effort in September. And some friends of mine are like, I think it'll be too late. I think people are sitting here watching you focus on these other people who don't show up to vote for y'all, and just being like, oh, they'll handle those people. They always come anyway later on. And yeah, and it's interesting too, because he said that when the whole thing with Morgan happened, he said that he called Colin Allred's campaign mediocre. No, I didn't call Colin Allred mediocre. I called his campaign mediocre. And it's interesting, some of the things that we all critiqued Colin Allred's initial campaign on was his focus on these independents and moderates, and not trying to energize the base, not get the base so excited that they all are bringing 5 and 6 people to the polls. And so it's so interesting to watch him do the exact same thing. Like, do the exact same stuff. Child, anyway, moving on. Also, there's a really good video, if y'all have not seen it, of Gina Hinojosa, who's the Texas governor candidate for the Democrats, and Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is a Democratic candidate in Georgia for governor. A really good video of them talking about how important, how great it would be if they both win, and how that's going to benefit everybody. They talk about it from the framework of the Voting Rights Act, and how if these two are governor, they can block these schemes to steal districts out of these states. And if Georgia and Texas have Democratic governors, that creates a wall that protects these seats and benefits the entire country. I thought that was a really great way to frame that. I think it's also excellent for Gina Hinojosa to I think that Keisha Lance Bottoms has a higher name recognition, particularly with black people, even in Texas. So I thought that was a great video. I shared it. I'll encourage you all to share it as well. And then talking about Voting Rights Act, all these things I think are very, very important to black Texans. So, and I say black Texans, but also to understanding like that what happens in the South is going to spread, and what happens in the South could impact the path for Democrats going forward for generations. I mean, for a long time, and we don't fight this fight in these midterms. So I thought it was a really good message. Also to Elisa Slotkin, y'all know I cannot stand that lady. She's like the Lulu in my mind. So she said that she feels like that they are missing the moment, they being Hakeem Jeffries and what's his name? The Democratic leader on the Senate side. His name is escaping me, but you know what I'm talking about. Anywho, so she says that they are missing the moment. And baby, the way the CBC packed her up, they were like, you will not talk about Hakeem Jeffries. Missing the moment. You the one that voted for Kristi Noem. You voted for all these Republicans for this crazy cabinet this man has, and you're saying someone's missing the moment? Worry about yourself. Packed her right on up. Elisa Slotkin she's like one of those people it's like she wants to be this leader that no one asked her to be. It's just really interesting to watch people who want to like lead in these kind of moments like this, and nobody asked you to do that. Nobody. But I've been through her for a while, but when she's out here talking about like, you know, we need to quit being woke and all that, quit adopting the language of the Republicans. And so I sent her an email. I sent an email to her team about that, because that ran me hot. And I see she quit saying woke. I sent an email, and people made videos about that too. Like, girl, don't do that. You represent Detroit. Talking about woke. Are you crazy? So she cut that out, thank God. Down to the Houston metro area. Y'all neighboring counties was cutting up while I was gone. Cutting up. Brazoria and Pearland. So Pearland, Texas is a Houston suburb. It is in Brazoria County, which is the neighboring county, is south of Houston, south of Harris County, which is where Houston proper is, which is where I live. I would love to just focus on Harris County, but y'all keep moving down south, and y'all keep staying in some mess that I got to talk about. So Brazoria County, Pearland, Texas, elected their first black mayor, a few weeks ago. It was a really big deal. This man's been running for office several times. Quentin Wiltz, he won. People are very excited. This was a hard fought effort. He didn't just win like, oh, just got lucky. Like, no, like they were out here knocking doors, making phone calls. This has been a long effort. So he wins. People are very excited because this also is a sign that Brazoria County is likely getting more blue, that we're being able to activate these black folks that move south. Because y'all move south and y'all still be voting in Harris County. Okay. So everyone's excited, but I had many friends saying, be careful. This win is a win, but we have to keep our eye on the prize here because they will let us win and they will go through and take away power. So Pearland does not have a strong mayoral kind of system. The city council, it's a stronger city council system. So it's not like Houston. The mayor is in a very strong position. So the mayor there, typically the last 20 years, has been appointed to these different committees that are for the Houston metro area that are over major things. So the Pearland mayor sits on these Houston, Galveston committees with other mayors and other important government officials for the Houston metro area. So you can imagine this is a very important role. These mofos got up there and said they didn't want to vote for the duly elected mayor to be in these roles that his predecessors have held. They were like, this guy, what's his name? Council member Rushi Patel, because now I know your name, so now I'm going to be on this. Got there and said, well, you've only been in the role for 6 weeks. You're not qualified. But the fact that majority of the people in Pearland voted for this man, he's not qualified. So they did go ahead and they tabled this. They will vote on this in October. I need folks and black folks, well, just folks, but black folks in Pearland, pay attention. They gonna try to keep this man in this role and give him no power. These kind of things, you have to be loud about them when they happen because when you put the light on them, they won't do it. They want to do it in silence in the dark. So we have to make sure we're putting the light on what's happening in Pearland, Texas, and highlight this. He is the mayor. The mayor served on these committees. Point back in the period. They were saying like, well, you're new to the role, you're not qualified. There's no like practice mayor job. There's no practice president job. Even the vice president doesn't really have you in the kind of role as a president. People see you, they vote for you because of the quality that you possess, your ability to lead and things like that. They trust your instincts in these roles. That's how it goes. So they just mad that little boy, their homeboy lost. And so now we have to pay attention to that so we can make sure that he is able to be in that role and to be effective. And because if they keep him out of these different roles, when it's time for re-election, they use this kind of stuff against him. It's a scheme set up by Todd, y'all. Pay attention, pay attention. A similar scheme is happening in Fort Bend. Child, this is so much. I've made a video on this before. Okay, so it's so much. All right. KP George was the Fort Bend County judge, Democrat. He ends up getting into some mess. They end up arresting him for something. I can't remember all of the details about what he got arrested for. It's not really important to this part of the story. KP then switches parties after he gets arrested. So I think it's interesting. You go. You try to say that once you get arrested, there's only one party that's gonna welcome you. So he ends up being convicted of the criminal charges, and so he is forced to step down. A lawsuit is filed, and the procedural pieces of this to even have standing to bring this lawsuit, I think, is a very interesting thing from a legal standpoint. Effectively, they end up appointing this guy named Daniel Wong, who is the Republican nominee for county judge. He's not in any kind of official position now, but he's a nominee for county judge. They end up electing him appointing him as the interim county judge, which is a problem. Which is a problem. The case that they use to get him appointed gets dismissed. I still got to go through and dig through the procedural history for all this. I'm going to do a longer video on this by itself at some point. So essentially, people are like, okay, well, if that case is done, then the authority for you to be the interim judge is now gone as well. You need to step down. They have the county attorney, who's a Democrat, review this. Their opinion, which is the opinion their legal opinion, they are the attorney for the county, was that Daniel Wong should not be in this position anymore. Well, Daniel Wong showed up like he should still be in this role. And there's a lot of back and forth. And so Dexter McCoy, who is the Democratic nominee for county judge, is currently on the, a commissioner. He walked out one of the days, and then the longest serving member of the Commissioner's Court for Fort Bend County is Grady Prestige. He also walked out as well. And so Prestige, I feel like, had wrote some really good letters. He's like, I'm going to lead these meetings because I've been here longer than all y'all. And if we're thinking about it, who would be a good interim judge? In a county that's voted Democrat, it should be a Democrat. And it should also be somebody who's not going to be on the ballot in November. Grady Prestige is right there. Now, I've heard critiques about Prestige, but he is right there. He's been in the role for several years. He's been in his role for a long time. He's not running for county judge. You can kind of keep the peace, keep things going. That's who should be picked. Somebody like that. But certainly not the guy that's on the ballot who can then use his time as interim when he runs in November against Dexter McCoy. So a lot going on. I said, can y'all all sit down? I'm out of town. I can't respond to all these different things. So I figured it'd be faster. It was a 25-minute video over here on the what is this? On YouTube. So listen, I don't know how to edit and splice and put different time points yet. We're going to just post this and we'll learn as we go. But these are some of the key things I've been following. There's some more stuff too that I will probably chat about on the other app. But yeah, it's going to be a long summer, fall as we get into the midterm elections. It's going to be a lot going on, y'all.